Hello, good evening. First of all, make sure everyone turns their phones off, please. Or just the volume off, or just the sound off, because if phones start going off all over the place, I'll lose my footing with what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to talk about the past. I'm going to talk about my last show and what I'm doing at the moment. And I really like Liz's introduction, but she was just giving a basic introduction to people that maybe don't know anything about my work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask people to put their hands up who are familiar with my work in the last, say, 2 years. Maybe I made a bit of a mistake then. I'm going to ask people to put their hands up who are familiar with my work. That's all right then. Anyway, I don't want to show you something which you can just look at online or look at through a catalogue. I want to also tell you how I make art and why I make art and what's important to me. I could have just spoke all about the project that I'm doing here, but I don't want to bring coals to Newcastle. You are going to be the first people who see Newcastle in England is where they used to make a lot of coal, by the way. You're going to be the first people to see my bird project, or as we keep calling it now, the bird walk or whatever. It's going to have its own little name, I know. So I'm going to show you slides from my last show and tell you how I came about making the work. And I'm going to do it quite quickly, because what I would really like is for you, the audience, to ask me questions, because I'm only here for a few days, and I think it's a nice way to discuss things, and especially with the people who are keen on my work, who are here. One last question. Is there anybody here that knows nothing about my work? Oh, he got dragged along, bless him. Well, you hopefully all get to know a little bit more. So it's kind of hard for me to see here, but we'll start off with the first slide. I just recently had an exhibition in London with my gallery White Cube, and it was called The Last Great Adventure Is You. And it was an extraordinary exhibition because the White Cube is 50,000 square foot gallery. It is ginormous, it has very high ceilings, it's a really big space, and I make really small work. So the big thing is people kept saying, how would you be able to do a show there? And I treated it like a museum show, because if you're given a museum show, you don't suddenly try and make really big work to fill it, you just fill it with your work. So that's how, and so I treated this commercial show like a museum. So I make neons, and there's a few in Sydney that you can see. Where is it? The one, Meet Me in Heaven. Amanda Love? At the Ivy restaurant, you can see one of my pink neons that says Meet Me in Heaven, and I think a few people's houses. But this one isn't houseable. This one is pretty ginormous. It's about maybe 12 or 15 foot across. And it's the title of the show, The Last Great Adventure Is You. The Last Great Adventure was supposed to have been a show about a love story. And I realized as I started to make the work and work through the work that the last great adventure is myself. And being 50, or 51 or whatever, or going into my 50s, I realized that my adventure is, and as an artist, is really alone. And it's like, the analogy is like being a mountaineer. Even if you're climbing a mountain with lots of other people, someone has to get to the summit first. There's always someone who like the first man who put his foot on the moon. There was that one person. And making art and living, you're always alone. And even if someone's holding your hand, someone's always walking ahead of someone. And I realized my last great adventure was to do with me, not to do with anyone else. And the start of the show, I had lots of images of couples. And by the end of the show, it was a solo image of a woman, and also coming to terms with my own body. I used to have an amazing figure when I was young, and then I suddenly wake up at 50, and I do not like what I see. I cannot get used to it. I'll never come to terms with it. And I sat in front of a mirror drawing myself, taking photos, everything, and started drawing myself for what I looked like. And it was really interesting. At the beginning, well, this one's kind of half and half. At the beginning, there was this sort of, still these like really thin girl-like images. And by the end, I had all the wobbly bits of fat, you know, all the bits of skin, the saggy breast, everything, you know, the droopy arms. And it was like me starting to get to know myself again for who I really am, and not how I still had this strange image of myself from like 20 years ago or something, or 30 years ago. I did a whole series of drawings. I did like about 80 drawings, but really fast with gouache. And they're maybe about this size. And also while I was in New York, I taught a few life drawing classes, which was fantastic for me to have a life model and be looking at her. And this life model, she was black and she was so svelte and so fit that she was incredible. And it was really interesting because all my drawings of her look they're radically different from the drawings of myself. And in the class, I did a thing where I sat next to her, but even with my clothes on, and I asked the class to then redraw her, and it was amazing how differently they drew her when I sat next to her, because they could see that I was broken and I was crumpled, whereas this young, amazing woman was like really, you know, fit and dignified and had everything to live for, everything for the future, whereas me, I'd been browbeaten on the way. And I then explained that this is what you must draw in a person, not just what you see. You must draw like the internal aura as well as, and so I was really happy making these drawings of myself, even though, you know, you can see the fat, you can see whatever. And people ask me why I don't often put faces in. It's because it doesn't matter whether it's me. It really isn't important. What is important, it's the woman that's important. And I'm so lucky I have a really good subject matter. Picasso had to use other people. I can use myself. He had to use women. I can use myself. I'm my first muse and my first model. And it's quite strange. This is a commercial thing. Every drawing sold immediately. It was like, wham, and my drawings never sell, but this time, apart from two. So I thought, maybe it's the two that I thought weren't so good, or maybe it's this, or maybe it's that, or maybe, but no, it was the ones that had fat in the title. These are, so this gives you a scale, an idea of the gallery. This is this is the 9 by 9 room, and the 9 by 9 is 9 meters by 9 meters by 9 meters. And these are embroideries of the life drawings, so you can see the scale of them. And I was really pleased with the way they turned out, because they still have an immediacy, even though they're all hand sewn. They're not done by machine or anything, and they're all made in my studio. And the important thing about all my, for those of you who don't know, especially you, sir, yes, for all my sewn works and my embroidery works, there is not one single embroidery that's made that I couldn't make. So even though I have the sewers in my studio all giggling, sewing away, all happy, looking like something out of Pride and Prejudice, and I do envy them, they can only sew the way in which I would sew. Otherwise I couldn't justify the work being done. It's not like a high production value. It's actually a very low production value. I believe in a distribution of wealth. I love it. I have like 3 MA students or young artists who are really good sewers that have done embroidery degrees, and we're all really good friends, and they work on my embroideries, and that's how they're made, by hand. And that is really important to me, because a lot of people do sewing things, but it's all farmed out, you know, they send it off and they're not actually touching it, they're not part of it, whereas I'm totally part of all of these. Here's a detail. Right, so this is another part of the show. This is this large painting in the background. I started making in 2001, and I finished it last year. And with a painting, I can work on a painting for 10 years, and I've rarely shown my paintings. Most of my paintings stay in my studio and I never show them, or I just paint over them again, or it's perfect and then I've had a few drinks and think, I'll just change that bit, and I completely destroy it. And my studio manager now, they actually cover them in bubble wrap and try and hide them from me to make sure I don't do it. But this painting is the only large painting that I showed in the exhibition. This is the sculpture you saw in the front. I like this image of all of them. This was actually originally a sphinx. I've always wanted to make a sphinx of myself, you know, kind of like that. And I think it's because my great-great-great-grandfather come from Nubia, from the Sudan. There is more pyramids in Nubia and pyramid remains than there are in Egypt. So I've always had that kind of like romantic thing that I relate to it, and the sphinx and all that kind of stuff. So I made this like quite perfect sphinx of myself, like this, and it looked so shit, it looked so awful, it was so embarrassing that I just swooshed it up and went like this after, you know, and then I loved it. So then and this is the thing, but also it's very much like, it was kind of like slightly Rodanish. Of course it isn't, but it was a bit like Rodin's Thinker, and it has these kind of elements. So it kind of led me on to the idea, and this is bronze, by the way, with a white patina. This is my studio. Look how neat I am. And so you have an idea of how I actually paint and work. I'm very methodical, and I'm extremely neat, and I hate anybody touching anything in my studio. I'm totally OCD and anally retentive about it. But I love this picture because you see the color, you see the beginning of things. This is one of my bronzes. This is a grotto. I really love grottos. I love volcanoes, I love grottos, I love caves, I love potholes, I like sinkholes, I like everything to do with nature like that, like a space that you go into that has a kind of mystery involved in it. And a friend of mine, he gave me this kind of crazy stone grotto that he bought at a flea market. It weighed a ton. And then I cast it in bronze, and then I'll show you later on. I had these drawings and these tiny paintings of two people fucking, but a woman sitting on top of a man's lap. And I really wanted to put this inside the grotto. And every time I made the other figure, it just didn't make sense. It didn't work. And this is why I'm talking about the great adventure. The great adventure is on my own. It's not shared with someone. And so when I actually then just made the single figure and sat her in the grotto, it made more sense to me. And also it's like one of those votus things that you see, a Catholic votus thing that you would see on a mountainside or something. Imagine if you're driving in Austria or somewhere and you say, oh, I'll just go and say my prayers, and you come across her sitting alone in her little shrine. But it's meaningful to me. It's about the great journey. And again, she has no head because it's not important whether it's me or not. It's just about a woman on a journey. I particularly like this. Oh, I'll tell you what, in the background there you can see one of the paintings of the two figures. Here you are, close up of it, a different painting actually. And I was obsessed with this image, and I collect Edwardian, I suppose you could say pornography, for want of a better word, but actually it's like erotic photos, and I have a really beautiful collection of them. They're really tiny photos, and I could find them at flea markets, so I have to go to the flea market and go, have you got anything, you know, under the counter? And they go, oh, what are you looking for? Kind of thing. And I go, oh my God, and some of these boxes of photos they give me, I go, Christ, take it away. He goes, well, I don't know what you're looking for. And I go, something with the golden section in. And they go, so everyone knows what the golden section is? Yeah, you know what the golden section is. Yeah. A man of my heart, he knows what kind of pornography I like. Yeah. No, the golden section is something within a painting that's like a kind of strange triangle shape, and it means with the golden section it helps everything work and have a viewing point within the picture that you keep traveling through. It's almost like a vortex. The greatest art paintings in the world that we all like and love throughout history will have the golden section in it. So it's a process that you use to mark out within a painting to make the perfect painting. And I see this in these photographs. So I'm not looking for something interestingly smutty, Edwardian. I'm looking for something that has this the photographer has to have seen this, not just making some dirty photo from 1910. It has to have this special thing for me. And I actually tried to explain it to one guy, and he told me to sod off, actually. He thought I was taking a mickey. but it's genuine. But this image comes from one of these old Edwardian photos that I have, and I absolutely love it. And now that I've been collecting them for years, it's really because the same star couple come up and up again. Yeah, and I go, Christ, it's them again. Yeah, and I can see when they're getting older. And my collection starts from about 1895, something like that. Older than some of your buildings. So this is a small painting. This painting, now what I would like to do, thank you, what I would like to do is make this painting this size that you see here, with that same vigorous brush marks, with that same confidence. But even though I've been painting for like 35 years, I've lost that confidence of youth to be able to just do that. And what I'm doing now is trying to work my way up to that. My paintings at the moment, the majority of them, are no bigger than this. This painting is tiny. It's like really tiny, less than maybe 12 centimeters by 8 centimeters. But I'm working my way up to it. That last painting you saw, inspired by this, Vesuvius. Like, when I go to Capri, from Naples, you go across on the boat, and you see Vesuvius, and the colours are like pink and blue, and they're kind of like amazing. And I use this as my palette for all my paintings. Capri. And this goes back to the thing I was saying about grottos, mountains, nature. I think there is nothing sexier than nature. It's like, and I've always said, when I'm old, I'd like to apply to the Arts Council of Great Britain, and my project would be, I am 85, and before I'm completely debilitated through age, I would like to visit every volcano in the world. I'd like to stand on top and shout the name of everyone I've ever been in love with, down inside the volcano. I bet you I'd get that grant. No doubt about it. Because it turns me on, because it's exciting. There was this French couple, and they spent their whole life studying volcanoes, and there's this amazing clip of film of them of their honeymoon inside the lip of a volcano that's actually, you know, smouldering lava and rocks flying, and their honeymoon night, they're wearing these suits that they'd made out of tin. And they're kind of like, and they're dancing together with these hats on and everything, and there's all these rocks, and it's so romantic. And the last clip of film of them is them running, holding hands, and this cloud just taking them. You know, it's passionate, it's like nature, it's sexy, it's fecundity, it's like walking through a beautiful meadow of flowers and the wind blowing in your hair. It's all of those beautiful things, but it's hardcore nature. It's rock, it's molten lava, it's caves, it's, you know, things that have been around for millions of years, and that really turns me on. I love it, really love it. I'm sitting in my studio in London, in the middle of a city, feeling really depressed because I'm nowhere near nature, and I suddenly realize, of course I'm next to nature. I'm with me, I'm with myself. After the beautiful volcano, after the mountain, after the meadow, after everything, the greatest part of nature is us, our bodies, ourselves. So this is why I'm also fascinated with the figurative form and the body and the soul and everything it represents. You know, I am close to nature, I am nature. And it's what I was saying about the model and the muse. This is why great artists painted women or men or people that they found beautiful, or this is why artists painted self-portraits, because they were trying to get into the nature of themselves and understand what it is to be part of this world. And that is the job of the artist, to be working with the world, not against it, but with it. Grotto, real grotto. This is a small part of my painting of a grotto, which actually looks like a giant penis from where I'm standing. So I did this series of grotto paintings, and they looked so rude. It was incredible. This one was unfinished, but I still liked it the way it was. I wonder if I've got one come. No, that's another bit of the grotto. And this is a real grotto. Grottos are like these giant holes that go underneath the ground with light coming through. If anyone did go to my last exhibition, there's a catalogue where I wrote a story about a guy who goes potholing, and he knows this is amazing kind of grotto underneath the sea. He's heard about it all his life growing up, and he's diving, and as he dives down, everything goes around the rock formations and stuff, he suddenly sees like the entrance to this kind of cave. And he goes through, he has his line, everything, takes it through, and it's cavernous. It's like the holes, tunnels, walkways, all kinds of things. He's, swimming through. And then he just sees this light coming down. And as he climbs up on that, he realizes he climbs up onto this level, and as he climbs up into the cave, it's like a giant cathedral, bigger than this room, with stalagmites and stalagmites, the most beautiful jewels, like jewel-like stones and gold and crystal. It's so beautiful, it's so incredible. It's what he's been looking for all his life, and there's light coming through. And he realizes there's no water there. He takes his hat off, there's actually air coming in, and he sits there and he waits, and it's so beautiful. He can't believe it. It's like incredible. Slowly, as the sun moves, the light starts to go. The light is only there for like 20 minutes during a certain point of the day. And then he looks at his watch and he thinks, I've got to be going back because my oxygen, I've only got so much, because he'd been looking for the cave for so long. Goes out, follows his line, and then he realizes that his line is broke. There's no tension. So he thinks, he goes this way, he goes that way. He's completely lost now. There's no way he can get out of these chasms and these caves. The only thing he can do is follow the line back as far as he can. So he does that, then finds the entrance back to the grotto, climbs up, sits in the grotto, takes his thing off, everything, mask off, thing off, sits there and waits. The next day, the light comes through. The next day, the light comes through. The next day, the light comes through. On the 4th day, he's dying. And he just scratches. When the light comes, he just scratches into the limestone. He just scratches the words, "When you find me, tell my wife I loved her." This isn't a sad story. This is why this man died in a hole alone, because he never told his wife he loved her. Even at his time of death, he never told his wife he loved her. He told the people who found him to tell them that he loved her. He should have just wrote, "Mary, I love you." He should never have used a third party to convey what should have been the closest thing to his heart. And this is something people constantly make mistakes with. They're never truly honest about their clear emotions and commitment. And I love that. I read that story in a newspaper. It wasn't told like that. It was just like a little paragraph, But I love that story because for me, everyone would have gone, "Oh, that's so sad, it's so romantic." But it's not romantic, because he never told his wife he loved her. Had he really truly loved his wife and understood that, he never would have been so stupid to go that far into that hole in the first place. Oh, this is part of the show. There's a very, very long table, and these are bronze patinas, and one has a lamb on it, and the other one has a lion on it. It sounds kind of corny, but it makes sense, and obviously it's quite obvious what it is, the lamb and the lion, the strength and the weakness and everything. And I love lions, and I recently acquired some lions, which I hope you're going to see. This is my text, which goes on the lion sculpture. It says, "Lion love, wanting to kiss you." It's really hard for me to say. Can someone read that out for me? But you almost leave him, feeling nothing. Are you not just another animal? And this is about the fact that I fall in love with people that I shouldn't fall in love with. I fall in love with people that have a magnetism for me, but aren't necessarily the right people. I fall in love with people that I can't touch, that I can't hold, that can't feel me. And this is an admission of me talking about love and about the great journey, being alone again. But actually it's quite a beautiful poem, and I think a lot of people would relate to that if they're really honest. I'm not going to ask people to put their hands up, but... And here's my lions that I acquired. These lions were how I treated myself after my show. That's the kind of art I like. They're 19th century, based on these Egyptian lions, based on the ones that are outside the Vatican. But I love their faces. And this is a really good motto. So this is one of my bronzes. This is about maybe 4 foot. Do you do feet here? No, you don't. This is about maybe 40, 50 centimeters. No, about 100 centimeters. Tiny spinal tap moment. Anyway, so this is my largest bronze I've ever made. And in the last 3 years, I've been working with a foundry in New York who still work with Louise Bourgeois' work. I'm very good friends with Louise Bourgeois Foundation. I did a collaboration with Louise which I'm very proud to say, before she died. And part of the legacy of knowing Louise was actually meeting the people that she worked with. And the Modern Art Foundry in New York are some of those people. In the last 3 years, I've been learning about the vanishing wax process, and started off by making tiny, tiny bronzes, and now I've worked up to 100 centimeters. And it is really difficult. It is really hard, but I'm learning. It's like going back to school again, going back to being an art student. And it's fantastic to be my age and to be in New York, learning this whole new thing. It's like life, has started over again. These are mermen from Capri. And I put these in because I want you to see what influences me. When I never go to art exhibitions and get influenced by what I see, unless it's like, usually historic work or whatever. I'm never influenced by contemporary art, ever. I'm actually always influenced by what is ancient, by what is here, by what has landed, what is on the lunar surface, for example. And these are definitely lunar surface things. They're mermen, and they were found in, actually, a grotto. A cave, an underwater cave in Capri. Pompeii. This is one of my photos, not my photos, a photograph that I own that I absolutely love. And it's a really old photo, it's about maybe 100 years old, and it's of one of the figures from Pompeii. But this is another thing which also influences me, that I look at and I get totally inspired by. I would love to make that figure. I would love to recreate that figure, but I can't. The volcano made it. But this is one of my figures. This is about 70 centimeters. And, and it started off as a full figure, and then I just hacked it off, and in the end it's just the bottom part, the hips and the legs. But bronze. Rodin, love it, absolutely love it. It's one of Rodin's plasters. If I could have that in my living room, I would be so happy. But also, you can see from the Pompeii to the mermen to my work how it all connects. So, you've got your YBAs, you've got my bed, you've got all of that kind of stuff, but I'm trying to show you what actually makes me tick, what turns me on as an artist. Here's one of my smaller figures. This one is actually really tiny. It's only about that big. So I've gone from that size to this size, and now at the moment I'm making full life, size figures, and one day I will make standing up figures, but it's actually really difficult. I'm not deriding anybody else's practice, but a lot of artists will get this bottle, example, they will go to a 3D CAD designer, they'll say, I want this bottle to be, 3 meters by 4 meters. It gets blown up in polystyrene, cut, Then the polystyrene then goes to the foundry. The foundry then makes the mould of the polystyrene bottle, the giant one, and then it's cast in bronze. That's how a lot of artists work when they're working in bronze or with sculpture, whether it's going to be in resin or whatever the material is. Me, I'm actually making the maquettes tiny and then getting them bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, at every stage, they work out different. But it's really exciting because at every stage, I'm learning something. There is no shortcut in being an artist. There is no shortcut in anything. What you learn, and I learned to draw. I spent 7 years learning to draw. And that is the greatest tool that I have as an artist. And I'm not saying, of course, you know, if you're a conceptual artist, photography, whatever, or filmmaker, I'm not saying you've got to go around drawing and doing everything with your hands, but you have to use your eyes and your heart to make everything sustainable to yourself. Otherwise, you might end up not believing in it. This one is called Mother. It's really tiny, it's only about this size, and the plinth is a piece of wood that's also cast in bronze. I think, can't really see this one properly, well, I certainly can't from here, but it's quite Rodin-ish, and it's like this splayed figure, this woman with her legs open. It's, out of all of them, it's probably the one that's the most sexual, but you can't, I don't think it's, you can't really see it there. Here we are. This is what I'm working on at the moment. I just recently done a whole series of embroideries of these, and these will be shown in Vienna. I'm having a show with Egon Schiele at the Leopold Museum. Egon Schiele is one of my favourite artists of all time, him, Edvard Munch. I'm going to be doing a show with Edvard Munch with his graphics works, and I'm doing a show with Egon Schiele in Vienna at the Leopold that has the greatest collection of Egon Schiele's. So I'm very, very happy about that. Finally, I'm showing with the artist that I want to show with. This is a recent painting, tiny again. Recent painting. These paintings will be shown in New York, and actually they've got a lot more, I can't see from, but they've got a lot more colour in than you can see there. They've got a lot more pinks and blues. Oh, here's me with the Egon Schiele painting. Don't I look like the woman in the painting? It's meant to be. Oh. Now, I'm going to show you something really funny. When I was looking at the slides this morning, I thought, what the fuck is that? I think, what is it? It's like a drawing of a street. It's so strange. It looks familiar. That kind of window with that bird on, it looks like something like a bit like my Sydney project. Of course it is. But of course it's not my drawing, it's the engineer's drawing. My drawing would be very, very different, but it's a good, I'm just going to, here we are. People. Can anyone see a bird there? Where? There. Okay, good. Here we are. So, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to take, that was all very, very fast at the end, wasn't it? So, I'm going to take questions, and I'm going to leave it with the bird, because I hope people know why I'm here. I'm here because I was lucky enough to get this wonderful commission, City Commission, where I'm going to have little birds all the way down Bridge Street. And there are, where are the birds? Anyone got the birds? Where are my birds? Where are the birds? Oh, they're coming. Thank you. Can you see? So these are two of your birds, Sydney. They're really, really tiny. We had drinks with the Lord Mayor, and someone asked me a question. They said, have you been to Sydney before? And I went, what? I said, I never would have applied for the project if I hadn't been to Sydney. The project is for Sydney. It's because I love Sydney. It's because I want it only works in Sydney. And I'm gonna explain the bird project now. Down Bridge Street, there's lots of heritage buildings, and I thought this was going to be a massive problem for me. I thought they would never allow my little birds to make holes in the sandstone. But everybody loves the project so much, and everybody wants them on their buildings, which is such a beautiful thing. We're going to have these little birds, when I say we, I mean all of us, these little birds all the way down Bridge Street, about 70 of them, going up to, what's the other street called? Grosvenor Street, yeah, going to Macquarie Place. And the reason why I chose that location is because Macquarie Place is the first place in Sydney where distances started to be measured. And the project is called The Distance of Your Heart. When I first came here in 2003, I came here to do a project at the Gallery in New South Wales, and my boyfriend was supposed to be coming with me. And at the last moment, he told me he wasn't coming because he wanted to end our relationship. Well, it wasn't as easy going as that, I can assure you, but... Can you imagine? You're about to board a bloody plane. And also, just to let you know, there was also the 10-day holiday in Thailand at the beautiful resort before, where I was the only single person there. And I think the majority of the people had just got married, or were going to get married, or were definitely getting pregnant, you know. It was a nightmare. And I turned up in Sydney on a really kind of bleak, rainy morning in the January, met by Wayne Tunnicliffe from the Gallery in New South Wales and Natasha, who was there at the time, who's now here. And they said, "Where's Matt?" And I went, "Oh, he couldn't come. They said, "Oh, well, okay." They said, "Your hotel room isn't ready for a couple of hours, but we'll take you on a drive, you know, around Sydney and show you some sights." The first place they took me to was the Gap. And I'd done this thing. I was thinking, I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm just going to go and do my show and be really, really professional. And I just stood there at the Gap with tears running down my face. And, you know, got on with the show, met some people. Matt kind of called me a couple of times and he said, "You know, I'm not sure. You know, I just need some space." So I said, "How much space do you want? I'm in Australia, for God's sake." You know, it's like... And I said, "Oh, he wants space, does he? Maybe I just won't go home." And I didn't. I stayed here, all in all, for about 7 weeks, and I had the most fantastic time in Sydney. Absolutely amazing. I met people who I think were really funny, got a brilliant sense of humour, really generous, lovely people. I saw lots of Sydney. I got involved in everything that was happening, and I was truly happy. I really loved this city immensely. That's why I also wanted to apply to do the project, because I love Sydney. But when I was staying in Woolloomooloo, I used to walk up to King's Cross, go to the dry cleaners, whatever it was, put my films in, and I'd see that bloody sign, you know, 15,000 kilometres to New York, 10,000 to London, or whatever it was. Always loads of tourists and backpackers standing there looking really happy. And I was thinking, God, when did they last have a bath? And I bet they're really missing their mum and dad. Meanwhile, all they're doing is showing them how far away they are. It's kind of good on one level, but not very... And imagine if you really miss someone and all you're doing is showing them how far away. That always played on my mind, even though I stood there a few times and had my photo taken and sent it back to Matt. Yeah, but anyway. So when I applied to do this project, I thought, what could counteract that? What could counterbalance that? All right, do the backpacking thing with the sign, but if you were really missing someone. And so I thought, so it's a bird bath in Macquarie Place, and on it is the word, "The Distance of Your Heart," with one of these little chaps solemnly looking into the water, into the space. And I hope, really hope, that tourists will come here, or young people, or people travelling, or businessmen, or whoever it is, and when they're missing their wife, their husband, their lover, their mother, their brother, whoever it is, They can stand in Macquarie Place with the words, "The distance of your heart," with this tiny little bird that's migrated here. And then they can send that photo back and say, "I really miss you." They can be really genuinely honest about how they're feeling. Not just like, "It's 15,000 kilometres away, up yours, mate." It's going to be really, you know, it's kind of, it has to be solemn and have true conviction. And I personally think that's kind of just relates to lots of people. And one thing that the mayor said, she said that, Lord Mayor, she got quite emotional in terms of it being to do with Sydney and Australia. She said about all the people who come here and how they came here. And I have relations that came here when they were children, and they didn't come here out of choice. They were made to come here. They were sent here because they were from foster homes and they had no one. They were sent here. And a lot of people were sent here. They were thousands of miles away in this alien place, you know, whether it was 200 years ago, whether it was recent or whatever. There's migration, there's refugees, there's people, and even people out of choice who travel, or people from work. Homesickness and a wave of everything you know not being there. You can feel so lonely and so isolated. And I think that's probably why I think people here also have this amazing sense of humour, because Australia is, to a lot of people, on the other side of the world, unless you are Australian. And and I come here regularly. You know, I think this is my 7th time I've been here, and every time I fly here directly from London, I go, "God, it was easy. Christ, I should do it more often." You know, 3 days later, it's like someone's just rocking. Someone's like, you know, the jet lag is unbelievable. And I think Australia is like, especially Sydney, is like this amazing place with all this opportunity, and it's really fantastic. And a lot of young people, you know, as I said, come here and they want to be part of this amazing city. And I really hope my little bird project is good for your city and makes people feel at home. So there you go. That's it. So, any questions? No?
Hello. Oh, I was just saying, Tracey's got the most amazing legs for those people down the back. And it interests me that they're just amazing. Yet, you're like the kitten with the lion in the mirror, but yours is the other way around when you were talking about your body and how you were disappointed. And yet, I look at you and think, oh my God, you know, people at 20 couldn't have legs like that. So it's just an interesting observation. And also, did you make the little birds? Are you making the little birds?
Yeah, got great legs, and I'm making. Yeah, I'm going to be making the birds in New York. There'll be 4 different kinds of birds, but I'm definitely going to use this little chap because he definitely belongs here now. I think he'd be so disappointed if he was knocked off the ladder, you know. So I'm going to have one with wings out, and I want to try and do one with his little head like this. And I'm just going to sort of make as many birds as I can and then choose which ones I want. And someone said something really, really funny, someone from the city who will remain nameless because I don't want to embarrass them. They said, "How many birds are you doing, Claire?" Anyway, how many birds are you doing? And I said, 4. And they said, "Oh, are you not going to make all the birds different?" I went, "Well, like, when have you seen loads of different birds?" I said, "Look at that ibis, which apparently is called a rubbish eater or something, I don't know." I said, "Look at that ibis, look at that ibis, look at that ibis. Can you tell me which one, you know, is different? They just look like an ibis to us." And I said, "And we look the same to birds, I promise you." So, yes, I am making the birds. Question? No?
We have a question from Twitter. So on Twitter, someone asked, "Tracey, how can we find our own voice in art? Did you have to fight tooth and nail to find yours?"
I can't hear what you're saying.
Is this better?
No, it's just
This one?
your Canadian accent, actually. No, I'm sorry.
All right, let's try again. Tracey, how can we find your own voice in art? Did you have to find tooth and nail to find your voice in art?
I think finding your own voice in art is about having dedication and conviction and never being ashamed or embarrassed about what you really want to do. So, for example, at the moment, I want to make a bronze tree with a bird on it. Yes, we've seen it before, I'm sure. And so everyone said to me, you can't do that, Tracey. It's so corny. It's like so-and-so did a tree last year, so-and-so did you see so-and-so's tree? So I got my studio to send me every contemporary tree made by artists in the last like 40 years. None of those trees are like the tree that I want to make. It's my tree. So if I don't make that tree, I'm stopping part of my practice and how I want to go forward. And a lot of artists, they jump things when they shouldn't, and then they make too much what I call fodder art that they shouldn't. They just fill it up with fodder, unnecessary moves, where you need to make the true leap forward with your practice, and that's essential, I think, and that's what gives you your true voice, is having conviction, knowing which direction to go and having faith in that. And even if you think you might make a mistake, you learn, obviously you learn by your mistakes. Everybody knows that. Kids don't learn things by not dropping things, do they? They learn by picking things up. And as an artist, you have to do that all your life. It's essential. Any more questions? He's got a question. You do need a mic, because they want to hear your question.
Yeah, just a quick question regarding your large art piece that took you over a decade to finish. So the 2001 painting in your last exhibition, there looked like there was a text behind. And looking at your handwriting, I just wondered what it was.
This is really brilliant. My gallery called me up and they said, Tracey, what's the text behind your painting? I went, what painting? They went, the big painting with the text behind it. I went, oh, I can't remember. There are so many texts behind that painting, I'm telling you, that I painted over. And it's, I can't remember, it's something, you're something or other. You're, something, yeah, you are me, I think it is. Something like that. I think it's you are me. And the actual painting, which you can't see properly, is a female figure with her legs open, with another figure like on the ground below her legs, and they kind of morph into one kind of thing. But of course, it just looks like a giant landscape. So, but I think it is you or me. That is. But it's kind of slightly painted over, and I know that because I had to go and look at it to find out.
Thank you.
But I often paint, to start making a painting, I often write something that I'm thinking or that I really feel, and then I'll paint over it. And that's how I start to build up a foundation for a painting or a ground. So.
Tracey, can you talk about your interest in Sheila? And what is it, you know, that connects, and what do you want, what do you want that exhibition to be like?
So my interest in Egon Schiele, when I was about 15, I was totally into David Bowie, always have been, and I had this boyfriend that was a graphic designer, and we were talking about David Bowie's Heroes album and Lodger, and I said, wow, it's just so amazing, like just this kind of angle and everything. And this boyfriend said to me, yeah, but he's like, he's copied Egon Schiele. It's like, and I went, Egon what? He said, Egon Schiele. And I ran out to the local bookshop, found a book on German Expressionism, and there was one little picture of Egon Schiele, Oskar Kokoschka, Käthe Kollwitz. Suddenly, I was home, and I realised that I was a raving expressionist at the age of 15, and I have never looked back since. So there you go. So, and now I'm showing with Egon Schiele. It's just amazing in Vienna on a really superb level with a really beautiful catalogue. And it's really sincere and it's really genuine. And I've loved this artist since I first started understanding about art on a proper level. So I'm very, very lucky and very privileged.
Oh, thank you. Tracey, having started out as part of the Young British Artists movement, obviously you've all developed in your own ways since then, but to what extent are you still in any way a cohesive group? Do you get together to reminisce? Are you still friends? What happens there?
A few of us, we all keep in touch, and Matt always had this, Matt always just said, one day we won't all go to each other's openings. We'll just try to make each other's shows, and that is so true. It's like, you know, I have deep regret if I miss any of Matt's shows, or I don't see them, or I know that he's made a whole new body of work and I haven't seen it. You know, I'm still very good friends with Abigail Lane. Sarah Lucas is about to represent Britain in the Venice Biennale, which is, I'm definitely going to go, but as Matt said, probably not to the opening, but I will go and see the show from a really serious point of view, out of respect. We all respect each other. You know, and 25 years on, you know, and we're all still working. Some people have died, sadly, you know, it's like strange things have happened. Some people gave up on the way, but essentially, you know, everyone from that time had a conviction, and they worked at it. And for a lot of us, our work's gone off in different directions. And like with me, for example, I've gone right back to the beginning again. You know, I've gone back to what I was doing at art school before I knew any of those people. So, and then someone like Matt has always stayed constant in what he's doing, and Sarah as well, you know, and we all have a great regard and respect for each other, which is healthy, but we are no longer YBAs, we are, MAB, middle-aged British artists, yeah, MABAs. But we don't have that tag. And also, this is really important, the media, you know, the press put that tag on us. And in New York, there was always art magazines. There was always lots of art pages in the New York Times. There was always the art section. There was always the visual art section. There was always modernism in New York. Modernism came in 1948 and never left New York. There was room for modernism. There was room for new ideas within art in New York. But in Britain, that was really suffocated by lots of things. There were no art magazines. We have Frieze. Frieze is made by our friends. Frieze Art Fair by our friends. Our generation, actually, they're a bit younger than us. But our generation came along the same time as Nick Sirota with, you know, Tate Modern, which is absolutely amazing for London, fantastic. And, you know, as Liz was saying about Turner Contemporary in Margate, absolutely, 175,000 people went to see my show in Margate, which isn't a lot compared to, say, a London museum, but it is actually, it is, because most museums get maybe 2 million people a year visit. And Margate is really outside, you know, you have to get a train there for 2 hours or whatever. So a lot of visitors. Art has really moved in Britain compared to how it would have been like 20 years ago. And the most amazing thing is art become mainstream in Britain. You know, when 10, 15 years ago, you know, I could be on the front cover of a fashion magazine, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, or whatever. You know, with all my front covers, I don't know how many I've got. I maybe got 200 front covers of either newspapers or magazines. I could wallpaper a whole room with it. You know, we become mainstream. We became something which was on TV, that was discussed about, that was in everyday life. Because there was no room, we had no art, there was no room for art, so we just filtered through into the mainstream. And that was what's really important about my generation of artists. We didn't just stay in our ivory tower, we actually stepped out of that. And to some of us, and maybe for me for a short while, to our detriment as well, because we weren't taken as seriously as we should have been, because we were having so much fucking fun. And we look back, me and Matt, we look back, we go, how the hell did we do any work? And I said, because we were up 24 hours a day, which meant we had all these extra hours. That's how we did it. Another question? Oh, lots, look. Oh. Yeah.
Hi, Tracey. I was
Hello.
wondering, with the birds, are there any that you can go up and touch, or will they all be like out of reach?
I can't hear.
Will there be any birds that you can go up and sort of
Yes,
touch?
there will be birds that you can touch, but you can't steal.
Okay.
So lots of people have asked me this. They're going, well, they're really tiny and they're really desirable. You know, aren't people going to steal them? Of course no one's going to steal them. Why would anybody steal what is theirs? You own them. Not you, but I mean, what the city owns them. The people of Sydney own these birds. Why would they steal their own property? It doesn't make any sense. And there will be some that people can touch, and to touch them is really, it feels really lovely, it feels really beautiful. And there's some on low levels, high levels, and there's some in really strategic places which I know people will definitely want to touch them, and that's why they won't get stolen as well, because the moment it is, people will be really angry about it, you know. And when I did a bird project in Liverpool, a little bird, it got stolen, and at that time I used to write for the Independent newspaper every week, so my column was just like a wanted poster, and it was like, you know, you didn't steal from me, you stole from the people of Liverpool. The people of Liverpool are very angry. Give the bird back. It was returned the next day. So I think the birds will be loved, they'll be cherished, and also the other thing which I'm kind of really excited about is that I do lots of bird prints and lots of bird drawings, and what I'll do is have a suite of prints, like etchings or something of birds, maybe these birds, and I'll have a competition. Once the unveiling is done, I'll have a competition, and people have to note where the 70 birds are and spot them, and the first person will win a set of the prints. Don't you think that would be fun? Yeah, it would be good. It's like a treasure hunt or something. I know I'm smiling, but it's fun. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. It can be something everyone can join in, you know. It'd be brilliant, I think.
There's something very personal about a lot of the work you do, and you said before about the tree that you saw it in your own kind of personal way, and yet you've recently started looking a lot at nature, which I guess is a broad environment that everyone can see. So is there something that you see about yourself in nature that draws you to it, or is it just the kind of an environment in which for you to broadcast your feelings?
I thought that I explained that. I am here on Earth. I am joined to this spot. I am part of nature, and I want to bond with that much more. I don't want to run across the fields naked, screaming or anything, but I definitely want to feel more at one with everything that's surrounding me. And even if it's concrete, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Even if everything that's man-made is also essentially nature too, because we created it and we are nature. It's about having a response to it and understanding it and not fighting against it. And that's more, as I get older, what I want to do. I have this really beautiful house in France, and I've got 40 acres, 13 hectares. Yes? Good. Anyway, and it's so beautiful, and it's also in the middle of a nature reserve. And it's just exquisite. And when I'm there, I feel so happy and so released and so relaxed because of all the nature, because it feeds me, it makes me feel good. And I definitely think, it's like with all people, I think we need a tree, we need some water, and that's probably why people in Sydney are essentially very buoyant and kind of happy, because you have this amazing water everywhere that's so beautiful. And in your daily lives, you must feel that, it must penetrate, it's a good feeling. So the nature thing is because I want to be more of it. I want to feel more of it. And on my land, I've got a goat farmer that lives up the road. And I said to him, when I first stayed there on my own, I said, oh, I'm a bit frightened because I'm there on my own. And he said to me, what do you think of the land? And I said, sometimes it frightens me, and sometimes I think that it's just going to swallow me up and I'll be really happy. He said, you'll be fine. Because it meant I wanted to feel more part of it. So, and I think this is an age thing as you get older as well. You want to feel more home with everything that's around you. And nature in general, isn't competing against you. Unlike war, for example, that's the complete antithesis of what I'm talking about.
Hi, Tracey. I just wanted to say that I think it's wonderful that you've chosen birds, because to me they represent, in the fact that they can fly, free-spirited creatures. And to me, you are absolutely a free spirit. And I just wanted to know, with all your birds, will they be standing individually, or will some of them be paired up, or will there be any nests or any birds mating? Or
there's no nest, but there'll be some of them will be having a little bit of a party. There'll be some that will be underneath benches. There'll be two that will be kind of kissing or talking. There'll be different little scenarios going on. So I think, what I hope is that people will walk down Bridge Street, and instead of just walking, plod, 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 or going to work, or being tired, or being hot, they'll just stop for a second and see the little bird, or two birds kissing, or whatever it is, and it will put a smile on their face. I really think, for me, the job of the artist and the job of art is to make us stand still just for a second. In this world, we've got so much internet, so much music, so much magazines, so much noise, so many cars, all this stuff, all this information coming through all the time. Art, going back to your nature thing, art is nature. True art is nature. Art isn't design. Art isn't a man-made thing. Art is, if you're a true artist, you are just a vehicle for how the art comes out, how it's made, and that's where that's my kind of art. Not everybody's, but that's mine. So I hope that my birds will be like a kind of a wall in everybody's daily life, a wall that just makes them stop, stand still, contemplate, almost like a prayer for 2 seconds, and then carry on with their day. And when they see the bird, they can relax and then carry on.
That's wonderful. So can I just ask one more question? I'm intrigued also by your statues, the lions. Have you named them at all?
No, I haven't named them, and they are ginormous. So I don't even know where I'm going to put them. You know, it's like, should I have really gone out that day? That kind of thing, you know. Well, yes, I came home with 2 giant lions, you know, but it could be worse, you know. So one last question. No?
Tracey, your connection with nature that continues to evolve, have you considered expanding the palette of materials to include more natural or other found items, etc., occurring, you know, much as a potter might with different clays and glazes?
Well, this is interesting. Well, bronze is pretty natural, by the way. It's an alchemic thing. But with the sculptures, I use clay to make the maquettes, or for the molds. So I'm touching clay, and that's why it's very lovely with my hands and making this stuff and becoming. So essentially, what I'm doing now, in a very crude, simple way, is I'm turning my drawings into something 3-dimensional, and it's really difficult. It's really hard. Don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm really, really happy working at it for the rest of my life. Okay? Good.
Well, I mean, there's not much to say to that, really, is there? I think, Tracey, you've shown us very clearly why you are indeed one of the most celebrated and much loved artists, not just in Britain, but also here in Australia. I, for one, think your Birds project is absolutely incredible, and I think it's a huge tribute to the city of Sydney and to you that you have this great love for our city. I think we ought to tell everybody what a great champion you are for Sydney. I'm sure Destination New South Wales would want to know about it. Anyone who stands up there and goes, I love Sydney and I wish I could come more often, just don't talk about the jet lag so much. Just remember what someone said the other day at a tourism conference. You get on the plane, you have a drink, it's a meal, it's a couple of movies, you do it again and you're here. So just bear that in mind. I know you're here in Sydney with us for a few more days. I hope you have a really great time here. Thank you for your incredible generosity in your art, in you as a person, and in coming here tonight and giving such an incredible talk. Please join me in thanking Tracey Emin.